Hannah. I would like to start this assignment by acknowledging that I currently live and study on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam people. And I would like to acknowledge that as a young adult and a settler, there is always more that I need to learn about the indigenous peoples and their culture, and I am always willing to spread my knowledge to other settlers regarding this topic so that we can all build a respective community and appreciate the culture and background of the forever owners of the land. So for this self-care project, I decided to create a video in which I'm going to discuss the self-care method that was most highlighted for me amongst all the other lessons that we learned throughout the term. And I use this opportunity as a way to reach self-fulfillment, and I'm going to discuss it further. So during the term, we learned so many different self-care strategies, and we were able to define different stressors, different coping mechanisms, and we learned a lot of new ways to cope with our stressors and got to think deeper about which strategy would work best for us and how we would implement those strategies on a daily basis to get to better results. However, I'm going to focus on the TED Talk by Miss Emily Esfahani-Smith, where she talked about her book on self-fulfillment and living a happy life. I'm going to start with a little summary of her TED Talk. Technically, the topic was that we as human beings are always going after finding better ways to live happier, and unfortunately we always go for materialistic aspects such as what works best for me in my job setting, how can I get better grades, how can I buy the car I wanted, how can I buy the clothing that I loved to make myself feel better, and the list goes on. However, one of the most important factors that is often overlooked is how to reach this self-fulfillment in a more spiritual and mental way rather than a physical way, and how to maintain this self-fulfillment for a longer time. And the key to that is to attend to this topic on a deeper level.
Transcendent states are those rare moments when you're lifted above the hustle and bustle of daily life. Your sense of self fades away and you feel connected to a higher reality. For one person I talked to, transcendence came from seeing art. For another person, it was at church. For me, I'm a writer, and it happens through writing. Sometimes I get so in the zone that I lose all sense of time and place.
According to Miss Esfahani-Smith, transcendence is when you step beyond yourself. It is when you shift your focus from yourself on something that is much higher than you, and it's beyond you. So transcendence is when the sense of self fades away and one can reach a higher reality. For me, transcendence is when I help others, especially the loved ones in my life, and through that, my sense of self fades away and I reach a higher level of self-fulfillment that will stay with me for a longer time. Now, this notion of being more self-fulfilled through living a more meaningful life helps me to enhance my well-being, enhance my mood on a daily basis. And I personally use it as a form of self-care, as a coping mechanism, as a way to relieve my stress when I need to. This way, whenever I am struggling, whenever I need to feel more satisfied with myself and I am looking for a way to live a more meaningful and productive life as an individual, I know what to do. I am going to be helping others and make myself and them feel much more better. And I feel like that this way of self-fulfillment is one of the best, and it suits me the best according to the personality that I have. As I already mentioned, for this project, I asked my roommates to identify one stressor that they've been dealing with earlier. Then I did my own research about that stressor. I used some online resources and some of the course content and tried to find the best way to relieve that stress or a coping mechanism that I thought would work best for them. Then I gave them a summary of that specific coping method or stress relief method, and I allowed them to explore more on the topic and educate themselves on it. Then I interviewed them on what they thought about that specific method and how they think it would work for them best and how they would implement it on their daily life. So the rest of this video is going to consist of short clips of my roommates reflecting on the suggested coping mechanism, and I'm going to have them talk about what they thought about it, how they felt about it, and whether they thought it's going to work for them or no, and if they're going to continue using that method as a way to relieve their stress, and maybe they also get a chance to be more fulfilled and live a more meaningful life. So Jennifer is struggling to manage her schoolwork, and she's quite overwhelmed with the heavy workload on a daily basis. After talking to her a little bit more, I realized that she's actually experiencing what we call time poverty, which is this constant feeling of lack of time to fulfill her responsibilities and getting her schoolwork done. Now, what I suggested to her was scheduling and creating a to-do list and a master plan to better help her with a more organized schedule for day-to-day responsibilities, and so that she experiences less of this time poverty. So what I suggested to Jennifer was to come up with this schedule for her daily responsibilities. I suggested her to create a master plan that captures everything, every responsibility, and then reflect on it to come up with this action plan that she needs to follow during the week. Then I suggested that she reflects and reviews her plan. So each week that passes by, she looks back and sees if everything went well and if there's anything that she needs to adjust for the next week so that she can perform better, and to finally avoid pseudo work and procrastination. I also suggested her to put some time aside for herself as a form of healing, whether it's through putting time aside for her friends, extracurricular activities that do not include any school-related responsibilities. I suggested her to go out or know when to stay in and make a schedule for every little detail of her hangouts. And I also asked her to put some time aside to de-stress during the term, whether it's a meditation session or a walk or anything that works best for her. Hello, Jennifer.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
Great. So can you tell me how you feel about my suggestion with regard to time and resource management so you feel less stressed?
I think it's a good idea to, manage your schedules, because I always get stressed. So I think it's the perfect way to manage your schedule, but I think it's really difficult to put in action using like schedulers and stuff. So I need to have more effort to put on for using the scheduler.
Okay, so the next question is, did you find it helpful to use a solid schedule for time management?
Yeah, I think it's really helpful because I usually use sticky notes and I sometimes just forget the list that I need to do, so I always postpone it to the next day. But yeah, like I'm not good at time management, so I think it's really helpful to use scheduler.
Okay, and for your last question, do you think you're going to use this method as a way to relieve stress and accomplish more in the future? And if yes, how?
Yes, definitely. I'll use a scheduler for my schoolwork. I think it's gonna be helpful for me to like put or accomplish a scheduler for my priority, so that will work for me. Or also maybe getting like a to-do app that could like notify me through certain times and deadlines that is really important for the school. So I think I'm definitely gonna use scheduler.
Okay, thank you so much, Jennifer.
Thank you.
The next person is Lisa. She told me that she thinks she experiences symptoms of seasonal depression. She's an exchange student, so she's not from Vancouver, and she's not used to the short daylights and long hours of darkness as we get closer to winter time. And I researched about this, and there is no clear evidence that seasonal depression actually exists and whether the symptoms are the same in everyone, but there was a list of symptoms that were provided, and Lisa seemed to have a few of them. The strategy that I suggested her was one of the lessons that we learned through a TED Talk. This specific TED Talk was about how people interpret stress and how much they allow it to affect them in a negative way. The lady was discussing how people who viewed stress as a negative aspect of their life ended up having higher mortality rates compared to people who viewed stress as a motivator and as a source of energy to compete better, perform better, and be better in general. So this is what I suggested to Lisa. I suggested her to view stress as a way that motivates her to get her stuff done throughout the day, and do not think of seasonal depression as a barrier and as a negative aspect of her life. So for example, if she sees that it's getting darker outside and she feels that she's losing time and will not be able to finish everything that she wanted to do during that day and is stressed because of it, she should view that stress as a way that motivates her and prepares her body and mind to get her tasks done faster and work more efficiently, rather than viewing that stress as a negative factor that is going to stop her from getting her stuff done during the day. And this way, maybe, she can create this environment for herself where she is competing against herself to be better and more productive, regardless of how dark it is outside. For me personally, I believe that if I tell myself that something is going to affect me in a positive way, then it really will. And if I view it as something negative and disturbing, I will be influenced in a negative way, and I will be stopped from achieving what I wanted. Therefore, I suggested Lisa to view this stress as a way to get her stuff done rather than procrastination and letting the weather condition or how dark it is outside affect her in a negative way. Hello Lisa, how are you?
Hi.
Great. So how did you feel about the suggestion I gave you with regards to viewing stress in a positive way?
I've never thought about this before, but now I don't feel as bad about the stress anymore.
Okay, that's great. So did you find it helpful?
Oh yeah, now I can focus on the good side of this stress and there's no change, and I think it's an effective way to use stress.
Perfect. So for your last question, do you think you're going to use this method later in the future? And if yes, how?
Yes, and I will enjoy the sun while it lasts and use the longer nighttime to work harder, because at night I can be more relaxed and focused on my assignment.
All right. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you.
So the next person I'm going to talk to is Sayuri. She told me that she constantly worries about her relationships with other people and how it's going to go, if that person is a new person in her life, what do they think of her, how is she going to maintain that relationship, and if it is a romantic relationship and it's more on the affectionate side, then she worries even more, and that causes a great deal of stress for her. To me, it sounded like Sayuri was very concerned with the incidents that happened in the past or are going to be happening in the future. For instance, she told me that she felt very stressed for days after going on a date with a guy, as she was worried whether the date went well and whether everything was okay in the guy's perspective and what he thought of her. Another example was that she was also worried about the next time that she's going to meet that guy and how well the time is going to go when they're spending time together and how everything will turn out in the near future. It sounds like she's very occupied with her past and the future, that she's missing out on the present time, and she's less conscious about how she carries herself in the present time and tends to focus less and appreciate less what she already has and what is going on around her right now. I also struggled with this problem for a long time until I was introduced to the idea of mindfulness and mindfully meditating. So this is the method that I suggested to Sayuri as a way to be more aware of her surroundings and be more present, and as a way to relieve stress and be more relaxed. And she agreed with me that she is not living the life that she has and is either living in the past or the future, and that could really be the main source of her stress. Now, what is mindfulness meditation? Mindfulness is when one orients themselves in the present time in a way that they're not concerned with the past or the future, and they can really enjoy what they have at the moment and how much they've accomplished in the moment that they are living in. Mindfulness meditation can be simple acts such as going on a walk if that makes you feel better. But while you are walking, think about your pattern of breathing. Think about how it feels to walk in the snow and how it sounds like to walk on the crisp snow. How it feels to have a fresh and cold air touching your face as soon as you step out. These are the things that might feel and seem very simple, but actually shows how present you are in the moment, how aware and conscious you are of what you see, what you feel, and how you feel. I personally try to experience some of mindful meditation sessions that are out there. There are a lot of good videos on YouTube by very brilliant meditators, and there are some apps that offer you different sessions of mindful meditation with a background music, inspirational quotes, and I personally found them very helpful and very efficient, as they provide accessibility at the comfort of my own house, and I don't have to put a lot of effort and create a big barrier for myself to actually try out this method and feel less stressed. So I also suggested this method as a way of coping or stress relief to Sayuri, and let's see how she feels about this. Hello Sayuri, how are you doing?
I'm nervous if you're filming me.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. Okay, so how did you feel about the suggestion I gave you to relieve your stress?
I like it because it's really easy and I don't need to prepare anything to do it. And also it sounds refreshing because I can organize my feelings and not only being concentrated on some things happened before and also something is gonna happen in the future.
Okay, that's great. So my next question is if you found mindful meditation helpful.
Yes, I think it's really helpful because I felt more at peace and relaxed and I was less worried about how my relationship is gonna be.
That's amazing. And for your last question, I was wondering if you're going to use this method later in the future, and if yes, how?
Yes, I'm gonna use it in my future because I can introduce it as my daily routine by making time to mindfully meditate every day.
Okay, that's amazing. Thank you, Sayuri.
Thank you.
So my last interviewee is going to be Nachi, and she told me that ever since she battled the coronavirus, she's experiencing insomnia as a side effect, and she's quite stressed about it because she feels like she's not getting enough sleep to be energized for the next day. And this lack of sleep and insomnia has been negatively affecting her, and she is struggling to cope with it. Using the information that I learned from our class, I suggested Nachi to try cognitive restructuring or reframing. Cognitive restructuring is a set of techniques that helps the individual to identify, notice, and ultimately change their negative thought patterns. Since she was struggling with insomnia, that wasn't a topic that was covered in class, I had to do some research on this topic, and what I found was surprising. There are therapy sessions known as cognitive behavioral therapy sessions that practice cognitive restructuring and reframing specific to insomnia. The information on this topic was provided to me by the Omnis Therapy website. They claim that their therapy sessions aim to address the negative thought patterns and actions that might contribute to your insomnia. Through these sessions, you will learn how to notice, address, and identify these negative thoughts, patterns, and actions, and you will be guided through finding practical alternatives to be ultimately defeating your insomnia. Now, I'm going to share this link with Nachi, ask her to educate herself on this topic and do her research, and I'm going to ask her how she feels about this, and hopefully she can feel better after trying this method. Hello Nachi, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm good.
Okay, perfect. So the first question is, how did you feel about what I suggested you?
It was new angle for me because I always thought go to bed early and keep regular life was best way to improve my sleeping disorders. So, however, the more I thought I need to sleep early, I couldn't eat. So this way is meaningful for me.
Okay, that is great. Can you tell me if you found this method helpful at all?
Yes. I've never known and tried to cognitive reframing, so I always have a negative mind. So changing mindset is having us to try.
Okay, that's great to hear. And for your last question, are you going to implement this method in your daily life?
Yes.
Okay, can you tell me how?
I will try use my sleepless time for something like hobbies, listening to music, and reading the book. So I don't wanna have negative mind about my sleeping disorder.
That is perfect. Do you think you're going to try these therapy sessions in the future?
Yes.
Thank you for your reflection. This brings us to the end of my project. I hope you had a great time watching my lovely roommates reflecting on the methods that I suggested them as a way to relieve stress, especially as we get closer to final season. I personally feel much more fulfilled and happy that I was able to be of help to my lovely friends. And I am working on myself to be more fulfilled with myself, to be more present in the moment, and to view things in a more positive way, and ultimately be able to live a more meaningful life as a form of self-care. Thank you.